So now let's welcome Reverend Mary Buffo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to begin with a quick story. How many of you are familiar with the movie Moonstruck? It's one of my favorite movies, and it's pretty much my family. And at the end of the movie, Loretta and her mother and her father and her grandfather are sitting at the table, and the aunt and uncle come over, and they're waiting for Johnny Camerari. And the father has been having an affair, and Loretta has been sleeping with the brother of her fiancé. And someone says something, and her father says, "Loretta, just tell the truth. They find out anyway." So today I'd like to tell you my truth. And it's my truth, and I hope that someone here can get something from it. The last time I was here was November. I had come as best as I could, but basically I really was shattered. My mother had transitioned in August, and the topic was appreciation, really hard topic for me. And one of the things I love about this community is I came and spoke my truth and spoke about appreciation as best as I could in a place where appreciation was very small, given my life experience where there have been times where it's been very great. And like most of us, I like to come with my best, and my best was really small. And I want to say thank you first to the community here, because you don't just say it, you really walk your talk. I felt loved and welcomed in my shattered state. This topic, well, first of all, I'm feeling much more grounded. The power of healing does happen despite what I thought. I didn't realize my mother's transition would have such an impact on me. And one of the things that I experienced through that transition was I got to see how connected I was and am to my mother, something that I knew, but I didn't know how great until she was no longer there. The topic of connection is something that has deep meaning for me. It is the word yoga means connection. Those of you who don't know me well, my profession is I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a yoga teacher, a spiritual counselor, and an inspirational coach. So not only is this topic something that is professionally important to me, but personally it has such meaning to me because I really believe that we are wired to be connected. We're hardwired to be connected. I read something recently that was very interesting. When we first are born, we have no sense of being a whole being. We actually are particles in a body. And until we are held in a container, which I was held this morning, in a container of love that is set up with security, safety, adoration, and love, my wholeness then comes naturally by the host that holds me as a container. So our natural condition is wholeness. And yet, how many of you don't feel like that a lot? Okay? Because for many of us, that first stage of development isn't always really the container that we need, but we're still hard-drived for reaching for it. I want to focus today's topic, connection. It's so vast, right? You're taking a month for it. It really could take a year, right? Or forever. But I'm going to take it and look at it, one fiber of it. And I chose the topic of the transforming power of human connection. because I really believe that we come in to be connected, but until we have human connection, it doesn't happen. And that it's not too late for us to have that human connection, that it's what we do throughout our lives is to find communities and people that help remind us that we are loved exactly the way we are. One of the first places that I found that was, and many of you will agree, is in the recovery system, the 12-step programs. They teach us there, and just to let you know, there are over 280 different 12-step recovery programs. Right? That's how compulsive we are, right? They just keep growing and growing. But how great! Because I don't know about any of you, I'm really grateful that I have that as a backbone of my support system. When I first went into a recovery system, the first thing I learned, and it's what you sang about and what is more important than anything else, they teach us 12 steps, which are kind of like 12 commandments, right? And the first 3 are about my relationship with God, right? I have to first seek a relationship with God of my understanding. Once I have that as my backbone, then I can start to have my interpersonal relationships, because it's through my faith in God that you guys help me see where I need to work on that issue, right? How many of you live in a cave and have no relationships, right? We all are constantly getting feedback from each other in our personal relationships to see where we need to work on our spiritual growth. The third part is having had a spiritual awakening, right? Prayer and meditation. I want to keep practicing, because it's not like a degree. I don't have a spiritual awakening and all of a sudden that's it. I have to continue to awaken my spirit, right? When my mother died, my spirit I don't know where my spirit went, but I was not in my body and I was fragmented. It's only from the support that I've had from the containers of my interpersonal relationships that help me gather my spirit back to my body. Because the spirit, not in a body, the spirit is homeless. And when the spirit is homeless, we're fragmented. And we're meant to be whole. The last part is take these principles into all your affairs. Not some of your affairs, not the affairs that you like, but all your affairs. And today in our world, it's more important than ever. There is a greater polarity between people today than almost in our entire history in America. I'd like to read something about spiritual awakening. Because sometimes we have this idea of a spiritual awakening or connection that we think that we like float, right? And that we go on the mountaintop and we just meditate. Pema Chodron, who's one of my favorite contemporary teachers, says, the topic is the love that will not die. Spiritual awakening is frequently described as a journey to the top of the mountain. We leave our attachments and our worldliness behind and slowly make our way to the top. At the peak, we have transcended pain. The only problem with this metaphor is that we leave all others behind. Their suffering continues unrelieved by our personal escape. On the journey of the bodhicitta, which is the warrior of the wounded heart that's seeking for wholeness, the path of enlightenment goes down, not up, as if the mountain pointed toward the earth instead of the sky. Instead of transcending the suffering of all creatures, we move toward the turbulence and doubt however we can. We lean into it. We explore the reality of the unpredictability of insecurity and pain, and we try not to push it away. It might take years. It might take lifetimes. We let it be as it is, at our own pace, at our own speed. We move down and down. With us move millions of others. We are a collective consciousness. Our companions in awakening from fear. At the bottom we discover water, right? Water is the symbol of spirituality and emotion. In our heart, our wounded, softened hearts, right there in the thick of things, we discover that love does not die, that love is healing. It is gentle, it is warm, and it is the basic goodness of all people. I love her definition of awakening because it's not about me becoming separated, it's about me becoming one. One of my favorite teachers right now about shame and vulnerability is Brené Brown. And she says, the greatest pain in our lives is rejection and the sense that we do not belong. She defines connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. This week, I have a new hero, Jimmy Kimmel. He's paid to make us laugh, and he's good at it. And this week, he stood in front of the global community and shared his truth about how his experience with his son. To me, that was courage. Coming forth and speaking and asking the world, his community, all of us, to support him and his family as they move through the trials of a sick child. And if there's anything that can put someone to their knees, is a sick child. We are a global community, and the more we work on ourselves and develop our relationship with each other, the greater the global connectedness comes. When I opened my yoga studio 16 years, we had our anniversary this week. We were open 16 years, yay! My mission was, I wanted to open up a center that people practiced yoga. Connection. In our community today, a lot of people think yoga is a downward-facing dog. In fact, I was sitting at Starbucks the other day preparing for, I chair a Al-Anon meeting, and I was preparing, I had like 30 minutes to sit, because I have a son, I don't get a lot of time, to chair. I was reading about the step I was going to be speaking on, and a student of mine who I haven't seen in like 10 years came in and sat next to me. My first feeling was resentment. I don't get any time. And then I thought about speaking here and about connection. And I thought, what is more important, me reading the step book or me having Holy Communion with someone? Right? A book is a book. A person is a human being living. So I sat with him and we started to talk. And he said to me, he lives in Bolivia now. He said, I've been taking yoga classes, and I don't really like them. They don't do any downward-facing dogs. So sometimes when we teach through example, we could be not just, a good friend is someone that's confrontive. Right? And I always say to my yoga students and my clients, sometimes I'm a spiritual irritant, and sometimes I'm a spiritual soother. It depends on where you are in your mind. Right? Am I in the ego, defending, or am I in my heart, open to my own accountability? So I said to him, what does yoga mean to you? Because yoga means connection with God. What does that have to do with a downward-facing dog? If downward-facing dog is so important to you, do a few before you go to yoga. We are wired to be connected. Remember the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks? Deserted on an island. He was a connector. He was someone who enjoyed people. And he created a person out of a volleyball, Wilson, because of his need to be seen, valued, and a sense of belonging. He created an imaginary being. That's how much we need each other. There are certain aspects that I believe that make human relationships transformational. And those characteristics are presence, that you're there and you're present, that you're truthful and trustful, that you see the person and you get the person, that you don't have an agenda for them, that what you want for them is to find their own. Those are holy relationships. And I'd like you all to think about for a moment those relationships in your life, people that helped you transform into the person that you are today. Think about the connections you have with human contact. If you were going to tell your story, would the story be short? Would it be long? Would it be deep? Or would it be lack? I went to a seminar with Neil Donald Walsh many years ago. He was the first teacher that I was open to. He wrote a book, Conversations with God. It's the first book that opened me up to the new thought. I loved his book. It was very hands-on. And I started reading all his book. I went to one of his book signings, and he gave a short talk about the book. I forget which one it was. I think he wrote 4 about different topics. And then afterwards, he had people ask questions. And a young man came up and he said, I don't know what my purpose is. I'm really smart. I like to write. I want to write a book. I want to get it published. And he went on and on and on and on. And Neil Donald Walsh just stood there. And then the man finished. And then Neil Donald Walsh took a while and paused. And then he said to the guy, did you go out to dinner before you came to the seminar tonight? And he said, I did. He said, did you connect with the waiter or waitress? Did you look at them? Did you see them? Not only that, did you talk to them like they were a person? We have one purpose, and that is to connect. And when we connect another human being and see them, it sparks fuel that is transformational in them. A few years ago, I was getting my gas in a Gulf station in Southampton, and I would get my gas there every day. And one day, while I was in Golden Pear Tate's getting coffee, I noticed these 2 guys getting coffee there. So the next time I went to get my gas, I went and bought 2 cups of coffee, $3, and brought it to these 2 men. From this day on, I am a princess to them. How often do you think they get seen? Shame on us that we don't see each other. Shame on us that we don't see, that we separate ourselves. I got the little 5-minute thing. And I want to say one more thing. In honor of my mother, and Mother's Day coming, I want to say that one of the ways that I learned how to be a connector was through my mother. My mother was a connector. When she was in her late stages of 4th stage cancer, my mother was very involved in the community out here. She loved being with people. She started the outreach program out here. We had always room at our table. She was a good listener. She was a lovely, lovely woman. And I took her. She loved going to King Cullen. My mother loved to shop. So when she was having a relatively good day, I would take her to King Cullen, and there she was, 90 pounds, with her oxygen. And we'd have to walk down every aisle. And I felt like I was walking down with a celebrity. Because my mother knew everyone. She knew everyone in the deli. She'd been shopping there for 20-something years. She saw people. At her funeral, The people that worked at King Cullen were at my mother's funeral. That's what she meant to them. I'd like to end with a quote. I like quotes. And this is by Neil Donald Walsh. Your light is seen, your heart is known, your soul is cherished by more people than you might imagine. If you knew how many others have been touched in wonderful ways by you, you would be astonished. If you knew how many people feel so much for you, you would be shocked. You are far more wonderful than you think you are. Rest with that. Rest easy with that. Breathe with that. You are doing fine. More than fine. Better than fine. You're doing great. Relax and love yourself. Namaste.